Okay, everybody take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. Amen. Okay, so last week I kind of finished up the miracle principles and I was just reading from some of Ken's comments from a variety of different sources, different books and so on. So I think I will just kind of continue with that. And the first one is he said, we are all born with the state of lack. And that's, I guess you could say, a part of what the ego is and what it represents is lack. It's always, I need something. And we're all born into this world needing things. We need food, we need air, we need water. We need that somebody to take care of us, or we literally could not physically survive. And so our state of lack gets literally smeared across our very experience on planet Earth. And, you know, again, we kind of step into this world and have lived that way forever. So it's not like we question that. We don't think, oh, well, I think I'm in a world of lack, but we really are coming from a place of lack. So it says it's a part of the setup within the illusory world of time. This process will take a long, long, long time to undo. And I know people will come in the course someday and go, well, you know, I think we should best be able to get this like that. And yeah, that sounds nice. And I think that would be the greatest thing, you know, going. But that's not the way it is, because if we really understood what we're really trying to undo, overcome, move beyond, we would understand it's going to take a lot of undoing. And if we didn't have an ego attachment, we could walk in this class and go, oh yeah, that's right, that's right, that's right, that's right. But we have to sift through our experience of the world and slowly be willing to, I'm going to say, let it go, because we're, you know, letting go of the stories. And as we begin to let go of the stories, we begin to embrace more and more of who we are. All right, so he says that's why it is important, if one works with the Course as his or her path, to have a healthy respect for the ego. And I often say we really need to respect our egos. Our egos are, you know, gimme, I want, I need, fill me up, take care of me. I want it my way. I want it, you know, and of course, my way is the right way and all that kind of stuff. And to just be, you know, gently smile at the way that our egos work and not judge them or attack them, but become aware, oh, that's part of the setup here. And that's what I bought when I bought the desire for separation instead of oneness. So a danger is many people fall into thinking that the ego can be done away with 1, 2, 3, wash our hands and we're out the door. But that's not going to happen. All that really happens then is that people deny the ego rather than look at it and then change their mind about it. So in other words, we're being asked to look at it, become aware, look at my ego at its doing its thing again, but not judge it or attack it, but simply observe. That's what the ego does. And if we realize, if I choose for the ego, I'm going to get all those things. That's what the ego's made up. I'm not going to get love and joy and connection and oneness. And as we keep looking at it, and as Rose says so often, and we become aware of the cost to me for my lack of peace, then the desire to choose differently will start to rise, because it will be like, I want to drop this because I want to find out what his answer is instead of mine. Well, of course, thanks to Ken. Yes. I mean, there's a lot of course teachers out there that don't come along that way. And, you know, he's
Thanks to Ken, because he's the one who interpreted.
Well, it's in the course.
right.
I mean, he's teaching the course, but
you know, it's basically look at your quote unquote gifts. What are the gifts of the ego, which is everything on that left side of the chart. And we're still grasping for some type of pseudo happiness. And I say pseudo because it's fleeting. You know, and basically waiting, WADING, through this in search of just, you know, a tiny little amount of something. Yeah.
And as you said, fleeting's the word. Yes, there are moments where we think we get something and it's like, oh, and then very quickly we're going down the other way because nothing here will ever sustain that joy and connectedness that this is talking about.
But Rose called them gifts, the gift of the ego.
The course uses those words in quotes.
Right.
Yeah.
And right. And anytime it's in quote, it's referring to the egos.
The opposite.
Correct.
She said pseudo. You said pseudo.
Yes, very much pseudo gifts. Yeah, well,
We
of course.
consider them gifts.
Well, we do as long as we're identified with the ego. And it's so important to realize, let's say this is one football team and this is another football team. If I like this team, this is where I'm going to live and I'm going to hate this one. No matter how untrue that is, that's the way it's going to be played out.
And, you know,
Be-
I'm listening to Ken and, you know, he's talking about being aware of the purpose, it's always the purpose, what's the purpose? And the choice for the ego, the purpose is I get to be an individual, I get to be separate.
Yep.
And again, the quote unquote gifts that brings you.
Yep. You got it. And the deal as well is we don't know that's what we're up to.
No.
So becoming aware that we've literally set up an entire world that's in opposition to who and what we are, and everything about it is a lie, and everything about it is going to maintain and perpetuate the illusion. And so that's the puddle I was born in. And so that feels normal to me. And because that's the team we're rooting for, even though we would all say, I don't want the problems in my world, I don't want irritations and upsets, the actual fact is when you've chosen for the ego, it's because you were too afraid of love, and then you project it into the world so that this character appears to be the problem instead of me. So even though I would say I hate my perpetrators, I love my perpetrators. I look for them. I can't live without them because I can't play the part of an innocent victim without them. And that's so vital to the understanding of the course. So vital. And, you know, you could hear that information 4,000 times and then one time hear it go, oh my gosh, now I understand what she's been saying all these years, because that's so important.
And, you know, one thing that Keith Kavanaugh is very helpful with, and Ken, of course, teaches us as well, is it's not about stopping this behavior.
Yep.
Stop, don't become angry, don't da 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 da.
Right.
That's not what the course is teaching at all. And I have no control over my reactions. We're only to be aware of them, to watch them.
Yes. And the reason why that piece of information is so valuable, and let me just step back, and if I forget to answer what I just said, remind me, because sometimes you get going. You know, most religions, and I was brought Catholic, I'll just use the example of that because that's where I come from, is, okay, I'm not supposed to do this, this, and this. If I do it, then I'm bad. Okay, that's the setup. Those are the rules. And this is saying, you've chosen for the ego. It's not that you're bad, you've just chosen against what you are. And so your experience is always going to be coming from that experience. Doesn't matter if you walk around acting like a nice person in the world. If you're coming from your ego, you're going to have the effects of coming from your ego. And it's a real tricky situation. So as Rose was saying, if I'm here observing the character that just acted like an idiot in the world or is coming from lack and wants something or thinks they need something. If I'm up here observing, I'm not here. I'm either here or I'm observing. And if I'm observing, I'm not the character. I'm the observer of the character. And there's a line in the Course that talks about the idea, I'm the dreamer of the dream. Well, if I'm the dreamer, then I can't be the character. Okay? Yeah. And if we look at or think of our nighttime dream, my nighttime dream, I'm dreaming a character, I'm dreaming a dream of which sometimes I'm in it, but I'm not the character in the dream. I'm the dreamer of the dream that is observing the character. And our goal is to spend more and more time rising above the battleground, observing what's going on here, but not judge it, not judge it. What's the other word? Attack it, or even try to change it. Simply recognizing from here, oh, look what's going on here, instead of, oh my gosh, I did this terrible thing. I shouldn't have done this thing and blah, blah, blah. And then we just recycle the gunk over here. So it doesn't sound that different. It's very kind of sneaky coming around there, but it really does make a huge difference because.
Comes in on this practice.
Oh,
and,
gosh, yes.
You know, it's helpful to be aware of that because, you know, I had a course student say to me the other day, so the goal here is for me to stop judging. And I'm like, no, it's for you to watch and judge and not judge him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
don't judge the judger.
Yes, but be aware of, in society or religion, and certainly in religion, the whole idea is I did it wrong, I should judge myself, or I should judge you because you don't know what you're doing. And, I'm the judge and the jury of something that's not even real. So it's kept the play going for a very long time.
I really keep that too. But the only problem is that we think that we're the thinker of thoughts.
Well, the Course is very clear on that.
That do not exist.
Yep.
Thoughts do not exist. They mean nothing. And they are nothing. And we're making something up.
Yeah.
Giving meaning
Yep.
to them.
Yep.
I think therefore
We take them seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
therefore
And the deal with that, though, is the reason why I love the thinking and the thoughts and the manipulations and whatnot of the world is because that makes me feel real. I have value. I'm importance. This is me. You wash that all away. And what do I have? Not much. And we're afraid of not much. So we cling to all the insanity and run down every porthole we find to examine and fix and change and do whatever we do to manipulate the world. Always over here instead of over here. And understand. Yeah.
It's a very thin line.
Oh, it is very.
It's just thoughtfulness that I'm chasing down.
Mhm.
I think it's a thing, I've made it to be.
Mhm.
I've given it substance and it's not. It's just a cloud bank.
Yeah. Well, and the Course even has that wonderful visual. It's like taking a quarter and dropping it in a cloud. Well, it just goes right through, not a big deal. But when I think it's solid, then I won't allow that to happen. Yeah.
You mentioned
Quarters,
so it needs to be set. Yeah, you said like dropping a quarter into a cloud.
a coin. How about that's better? Because I think it doesn't say quarter.
I found it interesting yesterday here when I went to the restroom, when Alma was here, I saw that there's 5 quarters.
And they're still there.
Right by the paper towel.
Mhm.
Came back today, 5 quarters, sitting in the same spot by the paper towel. Is that significant?
To somebody probably. Not that I'm aware of. I have no idea what those quarters are there for. I'll put them in my purse later and then that won't bother me anymore. No, I know.
It's,
Curious what's going on.
yeah, I'm thinking, is there something there?
I don't know.
Is there something that, is there something in Alma's,
No, it has nothing to do with the program. No,
no?
no. Nope.
Okay, because I did see in this brochure that I was reading while I was
Uh-huh.
waiting for her. And if I could just, I hope this was okay. Apparently donating a cow, and this is in India,
Right.
donating a cow is considered a profound and virtuous deed with far-reaching implications for spiritual elevation and societal harmony. And there's many things, and it also deals with securing salvation for our ancestors.
So in that spirituality, that is of value. It's not in line with the course, because as Jesus says at the beginning of the course, there are many paths. They're all good. They will all take you home. But this course has specific set of, I'm going to call them rules. That's not the best choice of words, of undoing process that it will look very different than another spirituality. And Ken actually met Mother Teresa, and he said, you probably can't find anybody on the planet that believed so strongly against what the course had to say. But he said, having met her, he could feel the love coming from her, and because of her content, the purpose of her experience was so driven with love that even though the form, course versus Catholicism, were extremely, I mean, like this different, it was really where she was coming from love. So, and it also says in the course, it is not for us to judge other people's paths. But if this is your path, then go along with what this
I'm
path
happy to
is.
say.
Okay.
I was hoping that was the answer.
Okay, all right.
I was coming across many things, and it even sound like the Pope giving indulgences
Yeah.
or, extra money being donated to him.
Yeah.
But that takes me back to the quarters, so I
Yeah.
didn't bring this up unnecessarily.
Nah.
It brings me back to the quarters. I thought, well, maybe there is something with the quarters. And so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna-
Yep.
I'm
All
not
right.
touching anything, but thinking that there was any kind of symbolism.
Yes.
Ken drives, so does Keith Kavanaugh, drives this home. And it's always helpful to remember the metaphysics of the course, or you will get confused. There is no life outside of heaven.
Yeah.
This is not
Yes.
real, this is not true, it's nothing.
Well, and I believe that, but then I think of Mary Ann being involved heavily with Alma, and I thought, okay, just wasn't sure what's
Mhm.
happening here.
Mhm.
That's all.
Just is,
Something to do.
it's something to do. My husband's very into it, so I support him, so.
Keith Kavanaugh, I'm trying to figure out. He's a course teacher.
He's a course teacher, he's a Ken Wapnick student too, as well.
Oh,
And
regarding meaning, I give meaning.
I give everything all the meaning it has.
Yes.
So I look around and I look, wow, she's only trying to have it, and I'm informed and I'm making an interpretation, as we say. And that, again, it's part of the brain.
Right,
Trying
right.
to give a meaning, trying to
Right.
give form, make an importance, make something that's not important.
And it goes back to what you had said when you were talking about A Course in Miracles, attention learned, you just take, for example, your Rishi's course and maybe Alma too,
Right,
and you have to just put them in a different part of your brain
because they're
and
different.
just work with them.
And-
Of course, in
right.
Miracles is separate from those other two.
And the difference with many people is they say, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this and call it the Course in Miracles. I'm going to take a little bit of that and call it the Course in Miracles. I'm going to take a little bit of that and call it the Course in Miracles. And they're, oh, well, this is just like the Course in Miracles. And the real thing is, yes, this little piece over there sounds the same as the Course, and that little piece sounds like the Course. But if you don't have the whole foundation of understanding the Course, you're going to get buried lost in a lot of different ways, thinking you really are getting the depth of the course. And that It's a tricky situation because maybe you're not ready for the depth of the course. So that is very helpful where you are. It's like the foothills of the mountain. You start out where you are, but as you keep stepping out the mountain, things that no longer serve you start to fall away because now you're at a different level.
No, I like it because A Course in Miracles really resonates with me. I may not, I'm learning, very learning, really
Right.
learning. But I think it just resonates with me. This is it.
I think
So
that's a
it's nice
good place to go from.
When I look at something like this, I mean, well, this doesn't quite jive.
Right.
Of course, in Miracles, but I felt like check it out if you want.
Mhm.
You know what, I've experienced that, trying to mix a lot of different, books and ways, but of course, it gets very, it can get, what is it, muddy? To say, because I've even
Right.
seen explosions happen, mixed explosions happen. Combine
Oh, yeah.
different ones, you know,
Right.
it gets you really confused, like, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I would say in defense of all of us, when we walk in the course meeting for the first time, you are already stuffed full of stuff, whether it's, I hate your religion or you love your religion. And so again, from my experience, I was brought up very Catholic, so obviously that was a big part of my life. And as I moved through life and then eventually found the course, it wasn't like I had to hate how I was brought up. It was that this was calling me, this was serving me more. And what no longer served me over there just started to fall away and didn't hold me like it did whenever that was something important or valuable. And it happens it's a very gradual unfolding if you don't fight it and kick and scream with it.
Which brings me to one other one.
Sure.
Okay, so Amma is this a divine, well, we think of her as a divine
Mhm.
being, kind of like
That's,
Jesus.
yeah, that's what she's referred to as.
Jesus, well, Helen says that it was Jesus who channeled A Course in
Mhm,
Miracles.
correct.
So now we have a divine being, Amma. She's not channeling, but she's speaking much different than
Mhm.
someone like Jesus.
But again, just like the course says, there are many paths and they will all look different. They will all seem different. They will, the techniques and whatever people are doing. And think about this book, how big it is. Okay, that's our rituals, I guess you might say.
Okay, so maybe this is being, this and the rest of the work that she does is being, somebody else is resonating with this.
Absolutely. And that's
More so than
exactly, absolutely.
Like any religion or spirituality out there, yes. And before I came back to the course, because I took a very long sabbatical, I was really into Eckhart Tolle. And so much so that I went to see him. And when the decision was made to come back to the course, and I started going to Mary Ann's class, before I went to Mary Ann's class, I started listening to Ken again. And he discusses this, and it's like, pick one.
Mhm.
Don't jumble them all together, pick one.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be the course.
Got it.
I dropped Eckhart Tolle like a hot potato.
Mm.
Nothing against him at all.
Right,
His teachings are great,
right.
but this was the direction I was going.
Yeah.
And he teaches a lot in the direction of A Course in
Sure.
Well,
Miracles.
he's a Course in Miracles student,
Right.
but he's teaching.
Eckhart Tolle's form.
Right, but he's teaching one aspect of the course,
Yeah.
which is being in the present moment. The course is,
Oh, I didn't know that, because he does always talk about the present.
You kind of almost have to realize if you're, and I don't know how to say this to it makes it sound nice, but there's Ken Wapnick who is like digs to the core. And then there's other teachers that just scrape the surface of the course and they are talking about the course. So he just digs in a much deeper way than the average teacher does. And maybe you're not ready for that. Maybe you are, but if you're ready for it, he provides the service to take you home.
So what I'm hearing,
So often we focus on the content.
That's.
Oh,
what-
so like 99.99.99, yeah.
So it's the process that we want to consider.
Well, it's to get to the content. You see,
So often we concentrate on.
oh, right, and I say, okay, so form is all down here, and we concentrate on form 24 hours a day.
Mhm.
This course is saying the form is never where the problem lies. The problem lies in the content, which is that you believe you've separated from love. And no matter what it looks like, it comes from this. So that no matter what triggers you in life that takes your peace away, if you boil it down, you come to, I must have chosen wrongly, help. But I must have chosen wrongly, help me to remember who I am. So what we normally do is I got this problem, I got that problem, I got this problem, and we just chased down the street, spend eons of time, which the ego loves, because as long as I'm chasing that, then I can't connect with oneness. And we just are kept extremely busy doing stuff, being, fixing, changing, the whole deal. Yep.
Actually, all that information you just provided me was excellent as far as that there's all these teachers, but they all seem to be good. But you're right.
They
they're
are
not
right.
teaching the whole course like Ken Wapnick,
Absolutely.
or maybe even like Keith Kavanaugh is. But they're teaching parts of it.
Yes.
And they seem good, but you're right. If you want the course, you got to go to the course, and get in the course.
Yeah, and again, that's my opinion. There's people that don't like Ken Wapnick, and that's fine. I just happen to have found him right away, and he feels like the thing to me, so. And they're wrong. Unequivocally, no, just,
I'm going to share this about
yeah.
recognition, greatness in other people. It seems like it's appropriate. This is a Bar and Katie. I'm a KKK.
I know.
Excuse me.
KKK.
Yeah. First, she starts off, practice not doing and everything will fall into place. If you overesteem great men, you can't recognize the greatness within yourself. If you overesteem great men, great people, yes, you can't recognize the greatness within yourself. Any quality that you esteem in others is what you see after all, and what you see comes from you. You overvalue yourself when you displace it and separate it from its origin. Admire Jesus' compassion or the Buddha's wisdom all you want, but what good can their qualities do until you find them in yourself?
Right.
Oh, that's very good.
Yep.
The mind is always looking for value. When it projects qualities away from itself, it robs itself of its own value. It starts traveling out of itself to what it thinks it lacks. Its travels are endless, and it can never find its home.
That was wisdom of Buddha and what of Jesus? I like the example.
I'll send it to you. So you
Oh,
can
thank
go back. So you can listen
Right, yep.
and not write.
Oh, I did listen. That's why they did it down.
I'm listening. My judgment, that's me. No. The master leads simply by being. Being looks like doing the dishes, answering the phone and the email, shopping, going to work, driving kids to school, whatever. She doesn't empty people's minds. She doesn't have to, even if it were possible. The way she helps people is by living out of the don't know. Can't know. No need to know.
Right.
Not possible to know. Nothing to know. You know?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, the emptiness, basically, she said.
Yeah.
People are life lived in with such weightlessness, such lightness of heart, they begin to notice where they are and who they are, looking into the mirror without stressful thoughts. Without thoughts, just looking. I'm gonna end it there because it's long, but I'll
Yeah.
send it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Right. And the the challenge of all of this is, and I give this example all the time, this is like, you know, a 3-inch steak. And if I slam that down on the table of an infant, then you couldn't digest everything in this. It would be impossible. So you rip out one little piece of the page and you rip it up really tiny and you feed it to the baby and half of it gets spit out. And that's us. And we just keep feeding us and eventually we can take in more and more and more. And things that you might have heard 10 years ago, which were just like totally beyond anything, you can now digest and take them in and they make perfect sense. So, you know, I'm not downing other course students or teachers even. I mean, I started with some of the other course teachers, but there comes a point in time when if you don't understand things like when the course says forgiveness, most course students don't understand that forgiveness has nothing to do with I'm going to forgive you because you did something and I'm going to prove to you that I'm a more spiritual person. Forgiveness means none of this is real. And if you read the whole book based on the definition of forgiveness from, you know, the way we normally would look at it, you're going to miss a whole lot that's hidden in that book. And he has a way of really honing into some powerful concepts in the course that lots of other people don't.
There's just one more thing.
Yep, one more.
This is from Ken and I, you know, speaking of other spiritualities and other religions, et cetera, we, I use your book. And we don't need this. From
Right,
this is
sure.
Ken, okay? We don't need A Course in Miracles. What we don't realize is this came from our mind.
Right.
Just like every other spirituality.
And everything else for that
and
matter.
Everything else, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And it even tells us in 189, what is it, forget this course
Yeah.
Forget this
Forget
world,
these words.
forget this course.
Yes.
and come with wholly empty minds
Yep.
into your God.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that is mind blowing.
Yes. But the point is, again,
From our mind.
That came
Yeah.
from the mind.
well, but literally we've made the entire world. So the parts like this are the reflection of the part of our mind that's healing.
Yes.
And the rest of it is just showing us what still needs to be worked on.
And the fact that it's so thick like this just shows us how deeply we have covered, you know, the truth of who we are. That's why it has to say the same damn thing
Every damn page.
every damn day.
Absolutely, yes.
That is-
Yeah. Because again, we popped into the world and this needing, I gotta have, fix me, change me, I want to be right experience. And then the course comes along as, you know, just kind of just throw all that away. We got this thing, this is gonna go like this a whole lot better. And we literally cannot do that. We can just take one little step at a time, one little willingness to take us closer and closer to who we really are. And the course is very specific. It's not going to rip things away from you. It's going to be a very gradual process because we require it to be a gradual process. Because it's like, you know, this is who I think I am and this is who I am. Well, I'm not going to just have that happen real quick.
That's what they kind of do, like senses. Surprise and we believe what we see is real, what we hear.
Yes, and that would be another great example of the difference between Ken and some other people is that the course specifically states you do not see, you do not hear, you do not smell, you do not feel.
Right.
And if you're reading, living the course from the understanding, which we all do, don't get me wrong, we're all still coming from that place. But at least if you have the awareness in your mind that, oh my gosh, that's what it's telling me. And I'm not at a place quite yet to embrace that or live that. But at least I know that's the mountain I want to climb. Where if I'm just going, oh, yes, we're going to use a spiritual thing to fix the world and change the world and manifest in the world. And again, I think we've all probably done that in other spiritualities and will probably still in our own way continue to do things like that. But again, if we don't have that highest in our mind of this is where I want to go, even though this is not where I am right now. And it's like looking in like a big mountain and, some people have a need to climb a huge mountain. Well, you don't start at the top, you start down here and you slowly, and you might have to go up that mountain part way and cancel your trip because you can't do it.
Here for the next 20 years.
Exactly, yes. So, it talks about different, though the course isn't geared to past lives or other lives, it also says, an ancient hate that is now healed. Well, what could that possibly mean? But in the midst of the illusion, we probably have had many lifetimes, but since it's an illusion, none of it's really real. And so as we are climbing the mountain, maybe we won't make it to the top in that lifetime. And we might want to come back, again and try it again. And each time we get a little bit more connected. And my belief is if most of us hadn't gotten partway up that mountain, we probably wouldn't be sitting in this room because this is not just see spot run.
So emotions and feelings are the same. That they're not
Same
really
thing.
there.
They're not really
So
there.
that's when-
Think about being a robot that was programmed to be what it appears to be. It would respond from whatever programming it had, but it's all programming. Because there's the real only truth is capital T, thought is love. So anything else is added to the picture that says, this is who I am instead of that. And, that's a big chunkers, kids. And not easy to live into at this point, but
But to take little pieces at a time.
yes,
like,
correct.
Aware, just being aware.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so all that really happens is that people deny the ego rather than look at it and then change their minds about it. And again, so, there's so much out there, positive thinking. Well, I'm acting negative. Well, I'm going to act positive. Now I've got it down. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I tried that and I tried it a lot and something was still not working here. Until the course came around and it's like, well, wait a minute, there's a little bit more to this. And we're always trying to fix it instead of go to our mind where the real problem is. If I'm just down here playing, I'm just going this way, never going to heal. Have to come up here. And that's why that workbook number 5, I'm never upset for the reason I think, because it has nothing to do with this. This is what triggers me to remind me that I am not at peace. But the real problem is that I have this in my mind, because if I was aligned with truth, nobody could trigger me about anything. 0 across the board.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful because
Huge.
we think in certain moments, and I'm not saying that, we can't be in our right mind for certain moments, but we think here that peace can be disturbed.
Correct, but it can't.
And what we don't understand is true, there is no such thing as disturbing true peace. There is no disturbance
Well,
there.
and if you think about this side versus this side, have 2 different dictionaries. Peace
Yes.
does not live over here. So the answer can never be found over here. Not available. Yeah.
Yes. Quiet, I'm comfortable. I
Oh,
don't have
especially
any-
comfortable.
Yes.
I don't care about the quiet as much as the comfortable. And of course, my way. I'm getting my way.
Nobody's bothering me.
Yeah,
If I could teach this class.
Ah.
Yeah.
So who cares what they say about you, because it has nothing to do with you.
But what this is saying is it doesn't have anything to do with you, and it's my identification with the personal that causes all the problems, and there isn't a personal when you're in oneness.
And that's another thing with the course. I don't have to teach it to my clients.
I have to teach it to me, right?
And the psychotherapy thing. The therapist, yeah. It's complete, it's like, it's a complete book, I mean, really, it addresses everything. I need to read.
Uh-huh. That's why you're here today.
Christine, we all need to read it.
Yes, good point, good point. All right, so again, he says, thus many choose to overlook more difficult passages in the material that deal with special relationship and say instead that the Course in Miracle is about love, period. And the Course is not about love, it's about guilt. And so I have to recognize the guilt that I carry so that I can bring it to love, to connect with love. But if I push that down and, oh, love, 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 it's never going to happen. Because again, it's an ego sitting in its pile, singing about love. But it hasn't done what it needs to do to connect with love.
Guilt is the block to the awareness of love.
Well, that could be said, yes, because because again, the guilt came as a result of the fact that I believe I separated from God. Okay, so if I'm sitting in a belief that I separated from God, I am going to feel guilty, period, about everything. And the answer isn't, how do I make guilt more friendly or dress it up like we always love to do? The answer is drop the guilt and come on over to where love is. But I can't hold on to any part of this and walk over here. I have to come totally empty hands. And that's not an easy thing for most of us because we are so stuck in our stuff, I guess you could say. Yeah.
And I have a quote from
Okay.
Christopher Hardy that
Oh.
is along the lines of why the course is so, you hear a lot of criticism with that, of course, students.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
is the course
So
focused on
negative.
the ego,
Yes.
you
Yep.
know? If a man is truly desirous to know, let him not seek reality, life, God, which will only be an escape from sorrow, from conflict. But let him understand the very cause of sorrow, conflict, and when the mind is liberated from it, he shall know.
Mhm.
That's,
Yep.
I won't know peace until I address
Where the problem
cause
of the
my,
problem.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
My problem.
My dis-ease, whatever
Right.
you want to call it.
And we have a tendency to want to bypass.
Oh, tendency? Yeah, yeah. So again, and the Course talks about the idea of remove the blocks to the awareness of love. What are the blocks to the awareness of love? Guilt, sin, and fear. So I have to recognize I have this guilt, sin, and fear because I'm in oblivion most of the time, and I think everybody else has got the problem, but not me. So I don't even begin to look. So I have to look at every moment that I'm experiencing irritation, upset, anger, you name it, any ego word. I need to recognize I'm not at peace. And I put it there. And if I want peace, I have to be willing to drop it to find out what peace is. I cannot walk in the, I like to think of it, there's a little cutout person in the doorway. And the only way you can get through the door is to drop everything that isn't the little thing cut out. And if I come up to it with my luggage, which is all the stuff that I hold in, thoughts and guilt and fear and whatever, there's no way I can get through there. And it's not personal. It's just, that's the way it is. You either get through the door because you've dropped everything or you carry the stuff with you and there you have it.
Set up a camp outside the door, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yep. Yep. All right. So by recognizing our guilt, then we are able to let it go. And even that's tricky because most of us don't realize how much guilt we have. We think, I get really upset once in a while. So I'll look at that. What this is saying is quite literally, again, anything that takes your peace away in any way, shape, or form is a representation of, I believe in separation instead of oneness. Everything. So if we recognize that and we hold on to that, we're having a class right now. Sorry. So if we don't recognize it, how am I going to ever let it go? I don't even know it's a problem. So
It's so integral to look.
absolutely
Well,
incredible.
just be aware, you don't want to look at it right now. That's okay, you know?
But know that that's what you're doing instead of pretending. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the big, huge difference. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it is, if you know you're not ready to let it go and you need to hold on to it, which really represents I'm too afraid of love, and there's nothing wrong with being too afraid of love. But at least you know I'm not, excuse the expression, bullshitting myself anymore, because before I thought I was love and everything was just hunky-dory. But when you start to realize, oh my gosh, look, there I go again. I want to strangle my child because they left the socks on the floor. That's not very loving. Or run the guy off that, cut you off in the traffic. And those are just two silly little things, let alone all the ways all day long that stuff is hitting you. Or I'm too uncomfortable. And this is, like the whole deal.
And we're there most of the time.
And they're,
Very still.
yeah. But the plus side to that is when you really get what this is asking us to do, then you have lots of places to practice.
Abundance.
Abundance of practice. There's your abundance, just what you were looking for.
Never a lack.
Yeah. All right. So again, by recognizing our guilt, then we are able to let it go, and the love of God is restored to our awareness. But we can't step over steps. I'm not going to get there by pretending. All right, so the Course says when we come closer, oh, this is a lovely one that I like a lot. The Course says when we come a little closer to the ego's foundation, when we begin listening to the Holy Spirit more than to the ego retaliates and becomes vicious. So I personally find this to be quite unfair. Oh, I would love not, I mean, I would. And I'll talk about it too, don't you worry. The Course says when we come closer to the ego's foundation, so in other words, you're starting to understand what the ego's up to, we begin listening to the Holy Spirit more than the ego, then the ego retaliates and becomes vicious. And what happens with that is, I've said this is where I want to be since the Big Bang. So now I'm being aware that there's another choice. I'm starting to catch that and choose it. And the ego says basically, what do you think you're doing here, girly girl? You belong over here, not over here. And that makes it sound like the ego's an entity that's got power over you, but that's not accurate. You have given the ego the power by your investment in the ego. So the ego just takes out one of its things from its, satchel and says, yeah, how about that one? And let's see if you'll stay in peace with that one. And so it appears that instead of going the way I think I'm going, that all I do is get slapped in the face. And a lot of people stop coming to the Course and go find something more fun. And from the Course's point of view, it would say, yay, you got one. It's catching that you're really making some, shifts and changes in the right direction. Hang in there and keep moving forward. But, we as egos like stars on our papers, and there's not a whole lot of stars when you just got whacked in the face again. But I think at the same time, it's very interesting that Jesus does explain this very carefully to us, that this is going to happen, guys. Maybe not right now, but don't be too surprised when it does. And hopefully when it does, you'll have that in the back of your mind and at least remember, oh, I think there was something about that in the course, so that you're not totally devastated by the experience. And, to me, it would be really nice. Okay, I'm going the right direction. Someone comes and pats me on the back. Yay. Instead, whack.
I see from my experience, my fear level is just,
Yes,
I'm going this way with the teachings, and then my fear meets.
yes.
And then I go up and then the fear meets it. So I just, it's.
Well, and think about the idea of a roller coaster ride. It goes up and down. Okay, so if my roller coaster ride's like this and I start to get heightened in my spiritual experience, then the down's going to be further down. And as I, start to balance that out, it becomes a smoother ride. But we may have a couple turns before that happens. Yeah. All right, so the course means this literally. It is also, let's see, what did I write here? It is also to miss the specific role of Jesus. Oh, okay, this is a nice little line. This is also helpful to realize that in those specific moments, that's the time when you call on Jesus or the Holy Spirit to get you through those painful, unsettling experiences. When the ego does become vicious and become so overpowering. And it's been my experience that the difficult times, and I always kind of laugh and say, I read the course, I studied the course, I do the workbook lessons, I do what I'm supposed to. But when it gets really rough in your life, you just get out a shovel and you dig a little deeper, because you're desperate at that moment. And those are the moments you're going to call on the Holy Spirit, or you'll instead of looking at the book once in a while, you'll glue it to because you're looking desperately for answers, and you'll start digging more. And it's the digging that takes you to a higher level. So, it kind of works that way. But again, what is my desire? Is it to come to peace above everything else? And how do I know I'm not there? I'm having something that's disturbing my peace. And again, if there's something disturbing my peace and I become aware of it, that's my time to ask for help. But start with the craziness of whatever's going on, sit with it for a while, and then when you can calm down to a point where you're willing to ask to see it differently with open hands, that's the way it will come forth. Because I can't come with something in my hand over here, because I don't really have hands over there. But that's a whole nother story. Heck with that, can't see or hear or smell. All right. So we need their help in holding our hand, leading us through the ego's viciousness as it becomes so overwhelming. Then we begin to experience the illusory nature of our guilt and fear, seeming terror, in quotes, the course refers to, and know the love of God that truly does uphold us. So as we continue to work this, continue to drop our stories, ask for help, then that will slowly take us to another experience where sometimes you may be asking and asking and asking and asking and asking and asking, and nothing seems to happen. And then one day you don't ask and something just like falls into place and you go, well, I didn't even ask. Well, that was the effect of all those opportunities that you took to ask. And today was the day your fear level was at a place where having that shift did not bring more fear to your experience. Okay, the ego made the body to keep us from getting back to our minds. And you were talking about the idea of form and how we're just all wrapped into form. Our mind, this vehicle was programmed to focus completely on form, what my eyes, ears, emotions, feelings represent. And then we gear our life experiences from that. No brainer. That's what we had going. And this is basically coming along saying, sorry, none of that is life. Life only lives over here. And we're kind of in the midst of this pretty heavy and thick. And just dropping everything and going the other way is sometimes not so easy. And when we start studying, this is another sneaky one of the ego, as we start to study the course, we become more intuitively aligned. So now I know it's guilt that's running this show, but we haven't caught up emotionally with every ounce of who we are. So we oftentimes continue to respond the same old way. And then we hate ourselves because I'm supposed to have known that. I should have been coming from a different place. And it's the ego that just gets you coming and going another way. So slippery. But to again become aware that the course is literally saying that the body was made to keep us from getting back into our minds. So we spend all our time playing down here, never going back to where the cause is, where the healing can occur. Because I always think this character is my problem. If he would change, the weather would change, if it was, I don't know, whatever, all the many bazillions of ways that we get pulled into the ego. If that would change, then I would be okay. And this is saying, if that changed, you would still not be okay unless you healed your mind and chose for this instead. All right, so if we should ever return to our mind, we would surely choose against separation. And that's the ultimate goal. The more focus on the body, therefore, the further removed from our minds we are. And the happier the ego is. And again, since I'm on the ego team, though there's a part of me every once in a while that thinks it wants this, the bottom line is I'm still pretty focused on this. And that's the facts, ma'am. But we can get through it if our desire and focus remains in the direction of healing our minds. So our objective is to return to the mind's decision for guilt. And again, the moment we chose to separate, we became a cesspool of guilt, sin, and fear. The answer from the Holy Spirit immediately showed up that said, nothing happened, come back home. Immediately. We looked at that answer and said, oh, I don't think so, because we then began to project our guilt, sin, and fear onto God, thinking that God would do to us what we believe we did to him, which was kill him off to exist. So we thought, oh, let's see, I think we can find another way out of this. How about if we just project everything into the world, make it about that, and I'll be the innocent victim, and I will have been able to kill off God and remain an innocent victim. But I will never, ever come to peace with that setup. Not possible. So if we do not get to the cause or the objective of the fact that we've chosen for separation, we'll never be healed and will further be mirrored into the depths of the ego thought system with no way out. And that's even a tricky statement in the experience as an ego, Because let's say I have a job that I'm not too happy, or let's say I hate my boss. So I quit my job and I move to another place where a friend of mine works and she has this boss that's wonderful. And you go, okay, I'm going to get over here. I'm going to have this wonderful boss and everything's going to be well. And 2 weeks later, the boss quits. Okay. So it's like we can run from the specific issues. We can have a sense that I've accomplished something that's working out well and it's bringing me, quote unquote, more peace, again, from the ego piece. But we have not really accomplished anything because we haven't healed our mind. And it's going to present itself in another form over and over and over and over and over again. All right. So the strategy of the ego, I might have read this, but we'll read it again if I did. The ego strategy, of course, is to prevent us to return by whatever means possible, not to let us become aware of the guilt, yet still be directed by it. Okay, so again, always manipulating down here, but never coming to the cause. And I know I give the example sometimes if I have a watch and the battery dies, I can look at the watch and 2 times a day it's correct, or I can keep moving the handle around and I can make it be right for a moment. But until I open up the watch, replace the battery, it's not really fixed. And we're good at manipulating the appearances to think we've accomplished something.
Really don't mind the roller coaster ride.
Well, no, we don't.
Period.
Well, not only, unfortunately, right now, not only do we not mind it, we're addicted to it. Yeah. And the nothing doesn't have any appeal whatsoever.
It's interesting because I've been hearing this, that we really become so accustomed that we say, oh, it's okay, it'll change, you know.
Yep.
It'll
Oh.
change, and so we get used to it. Oh, it's crazy now, but it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's my excuse for maintaining. No,
Yeah.
I'm not giving up. If we wait it out, it's gonna change. That's just the way life is.
Right, and then we're happy when it doesn't.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah. Well, and again, we've been so set up in the story of the ego, we literally didn't know any better. And we really were doing the best we could with what we had to work with. And this is saying, no, guys, there's another possibility here that will bring you the fruits of something very different if you choose it. And we're manipulated in all kinds of ways from the ego standpoint. So anything that recalls us to the fact that we have a mind, suffuses with the ego, is helpful. So as we become more aware that I'm starting to recognize, I was just going to say, we're looking for the lack of peace, but I don't think I'm quite at that place yet. I might be recognizing it when I've lost it, that's what's going on, but I can't say that I'm really looking for it so that I will always be in that loop. But as we become aware, this is wonderful because this is telling me, over here, this is telling me that I've lost my peace. And the only way I know that this is going on is if I recognize I've lost my peace. Because if I was truly at peace, I would be over here. So my brother, who I used to use as my end of my pointer, the bad guy, now becomes, well, thank you for reminding me that I lost my peace and I know it's not you, so it must be this. Totally gets changed around and it becomes a total different story. So try to use the experiences that are going on the outside that cause you to a lack of peace to use it for a different purpose, but be very cautious. You don't do, I'll use this because it's more significant. Don't do this and then do this, because he's not talking about this either, because I'm just a character in the dream, just like you're a character in the dream. And what I have to do is rise above the battleground and then the party ends. So it's not I judge you, now I'm going to judge me. I made the wrong choice that brought forth all of this. It's no longer serving me. And when we really look at it from, it's not a loss, it's not a sacrifice, it's simply not serving me because I want peace more than I want the insanity or the chaos or the roller coaster ride. And that may take a long time, guys, so don't feel bad that it's a process. And as he said earlier, as I read, this isn't 1, 2, 3. It's going to take a long, long time. And again, not because the ego is more powerful than the Holy Spirit, but because we have invested so much in the ego. And, we talk sometimes about ordering things from the catalog. Well, if I've made gazillion orders from the catalog and they keep showing up at my doorstep, they're just doing what I ordered. And if I look at one of those and go, oh, no, that's not what I want, we're sending you back, then we're making some progress here. But if you just let them all pile up and hate them and you don't use them to send them back to realize, I don't want that anymore. That doesn't serve me anymore. It was good for a long time because I wanted to maintain the separation. I wanted to exist as an individual, special and different. But when that starts to become lower on the totem pole and the desire for peace becomes higher on the totem pole, I'm going to be more willing to choose for that than the individual. I want to be right. I want to be in charge. What do I look like? Am I important? All that other delightful stuff that just we carry with us all the time. And I can't have them both. That's the other deal. It's one or the other. And as my experience again is as you trust the Holy Spirit more and more, you're more willing to give him your stuff because something shifts when I do that. And it's more, the experience is much nicer than when I continue to just order from the ego. All right, so I'm going to go, if anybody wants to turn to workbook page, and this is not a workbook lesson, it's on workbook page number 667. It's called What is the Ego? I have it on. Do I have it on? All right, so yeah, I got a couple paragraphs we're going to read.
In the work,
Yes, it's page 667.
in the workbook?
Maybe it's 67. Let's see. It couldn't be 667, could it?
No.
How silly is that, huh? All right, let's see. Huh. All right, how did I get 667? No, that's not the right one. Totally off on that one. All right, it's 467, or I must have been a typo. Imagine me having a typo. Okay, so what is the ego? All right, the ego is idolatry, the sign of limited, separated self, born in a body, doomed to suffer, to end its life in death. It is the will that sees the will of God as enemy and takes a form in which it is denied. The ego is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes God alone is true. I'm going to read through that line by line. So what is the ego? The ego is idolatry. And what is idolatry? The false self, not who I really am. The sign of limited and separated self. So when we chose for the ego, we became limited, and we now believe we're separate. We're no longer aligned with oneness. And as a result of that, we're doomed to suffer and to end its life in death. So it's a guarantee of death. Because in oneness, there is no such, in that dictionary, no such word as death. And ordering things from the catalog. This is what we ordered. Give me a false self, which is limited, separated, and a body that's going to die. That's what we ordered. And that's what we got, because that's what we ordered. It says, it is the will, in quotes, so that's the ego's will, that sees the capital W will of God as enemy. So when we did this, God became our enemy. And remember I said earlier, this is one team, this is another team. If I choose for this team, God is my enemy. It's unequivocal, and it immediately happens when I'm choosing this, because one is right or the other. And as the Course will often say in descriptions, it appears you have two choices. In truth, there's really only one, because the will of God is really your true identity. So all of the other one is false. But while we're invested in believing it's real, it's going to appear that there are two. So let's see, it is the will, little w with quotes, that serves the will of God as enemy and takes a form in which it is denied. So we take a form, the ego, and we deny our true reality when we made the choice to separate and we took it seriously. Then we totally forgot that God existed, and now I'm in charge and I'm God. And the rest followed suit. You look like you have a question. Or no? No. Okay. The ego is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. So what we actually did, or thought we pulled off, was the ego is more powerful than God. Hate, destruction, whatever attributes of the ego are more powerful than the love of God, because I did it. Not true, but that's the experience we have. Life is really death, and what opposes God alone is true. So again, we aligned with death, so what God represents no longer exists. So it's quite a setup. Just those couple sentences. That's what we bought when we ordered the ego. And the question becomes, as we become more and more aware of what we bought, the question becomes, do I still want to buy that? Is that the package I want to order? Or do I want to begin to look at that package and question, is that what I want? And if it's not, drop the package and say, okay, Holy Spirit, this whole book is telling me you have a better way than the one I have. But I can't do this unless I let this one over here. Because again, this wonderful line down the middle, there's nowhere I can cross over. I have to choose one or the other at any given moment. And we go back and forth until we go here and we go, oh, no, not going back anymore. And that's what the Course would call the happy dream, when I've totally aligned with who I really am.
So do we know people who have aligned with who they really are? I mean, like Ken Wapnick, did he get there?
The question is a good question. But the answer is, I personally, since I did meet him numerous times, I truly believe he was much further along than the average bear. Did he get it? I don't know. It sure appears that way. And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if he got it or how many people did or didn't get it. Am I going to get it? And, Jesus in this Course says he got it. He was pretty unequivocal. Let me see. Oh, here we go. He was pretty unequivocal. I got it. I'm not in the dream anymore. See, in the positive and negative experience, I want nice in the world and get a run from the negative. But there is nothing. I'm aligned with God, and most of us aren't quite ready to rip off the Band-Aid quite yet. So we cling to something over here, say, oh yeah, I want this, I want this, I want this. And Jesus says, are you sure? But he, even with Helen and Bill, there was a story of Helen and Bill were praying, and Helen, Bill, and Ken, I think were all praying. and Helen was, basically praying to God, help me, heal me, whatever. And Jesus basically said, in fact, I think there was even like a slash across the thing where this kind of got removed, and Jesus said, or the definition of this got removed. And Jesus says, yes, you're going to kneel and pray, but come and walk with me. That's the goal. Throw this away. This is not you. And if we're still, having Jesus or the course with Jesus outside, which of course we're going to start with, and not to feel bad or guilty that that's where it starts. But our ultimate goal is not to keep depending on Jesus. And Ken would sometimes say it's like a little child that's getting ready for bed who wants mom to bring him nice warm milk and tuck him in and kiss him on the cheek. And that's all fun and good and wonderful, and they're very necessary in the process. But there comes a time when it's time to get out of bed and walk with Jesus and be the representation of Jesus in the world. And that's when we become the teachers of God, because we are living that, not because of what my mouth is doing. It's because it's what I have become. And I just automatically come from that place of love. But again, don't skip steps either. If you still need the Jesus thing, by all means, do that. But again, try to think of the top of the mountain. The top of the mountain is, I'm not any of this. And I often talk about the idea of a hose. If I'm a hose, this vehicle called me, it looks like a hose, but it's all knotted up, and with all my beliefs, my prejudices, my whatever. So not a whole lot of water gets out there, just a little trickle once in a while. And this is, I get all of that out of the way, and automatically that love flows through this vehicle, because this vehicle is no longer attached to any of the meanness any longer. Not meanness, but meanness, where I, me, my, whatever. I don't know. And that whole prayer of, I don't know why I'm upset or what I'm upset about, means I don't know anything. I think I'm upset because somebody called me a name. Well, the Course would say to judge anything is beyond your capacity. It's not that you shouldn't, it's beyond your capacity. In order to judge, you would have to know everything about everyone in the past and in the future. We're not capable of it. But watch us go. Watch us try to be in control. And as Rose said earlier, to come to that place of, I don't know, you tell me, is really what the Course is directing us to do. And then you become the voice of Jesus. Okay. And, right now, as the Course will speak of Jesus again, like an entity outside of ourselves, oftentimes, but literally the recognition or the connection with the Holy Spirit or Jesus is actually the part of your mind that remembers versus the part of your mind that's separated. So Jesus isn't even something outside of yourself, although right now that can be a helpful way to approach it that's less threatening. But eventually this side just will disappear because it really isn't real. We just think it's really real. All right, paragraph. No, let's see, did I finish that? No, I don't think I did. We have some more juice. No, the ego is, the ego is the proof. So now that I become the ego, I have the proof, and again, the ego proof, that strength is weak and love is fearful. And I can remember years ago, Ken said, that's why devil worshipers think they're so powerful, because they believe they're more powerful than God. And at the time it was sort of like, what's he talking about? But now I understand that what he was saying is, because within the illusion, it appears there's great strength in that. But again, great strength would be in quotes, it's a false sense of power.
Magic.
It's magic. Yes. Yeah.
Manipulation.
Right. Yeah. And all the while, it not only opposes God, we often talk about the Holy Spirit as God. and this opposes that, but in truth, this opposes who I am, because I am aligned with God. And as long as I'm playing over here, I'm playing in my false self. And I don't have connection with my true self. So it's not only are we leaving, putting God under the bus, as we sometimes say, we're putting ourselves under the bus. And we're wondering why we're bleeding, dying on the road. Roadkill, roadkill. There you go. Come back me up, right? Whatever. All right. So paragraph 2, the ego is insane. I'm just going to stop there. And I always kind of get a kick out of the course because it's so brutally honest if we really pay attention. But you see, if you were someone who was studying or teaching the course from a place of looking for love in all the right places in the course, you probably would pass that line up and go, no, he doesn't mean that. But what the course is saying is, if you could have this and you're living over here, I'm sorry, you're insane. Not a smart move, guys. Not a smart move at all. I get why you did it and all that stuff, but still not a smart move. And he's really pretty brutal with his descriptions. You are insane. And so he's not doing that to make you feel bad. He's doing that to help you become aware of what the results of making these choices are. In fear, it stands beyond the everywhere, apart from all, in separation from infinity. So what he's saying is when you're insane and you're in fear, you stand apart or beyond everywhere. So you're standing over here going, this is it, this is it. And everywhere is really over here. And you miss it because you're over here playing. And there's so much reinforcement and aspects of form. I have this chart with me, the hero of the dream, and all these diversions pull us and take us everywhere. And it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. There's a me, a my, and an I being drawn everywhere. And the answer is way up here, this little dot. And we go, what dot? I don't see any dot. I think I better go play here. And we do. Until we don't. All right. So again, in fear, it stands beyond the everywhere, apart from all, because in oneness, we're all one instead of separate. In separation from the infinity. So again, we're in the separated state instead of the infinity state. And again, this is the choices. These are the results you're going to continue to get depending on which one of these gears you have your car running in. And if I'm running in the ego and I don't know I'm running in the ego, which is the case for most of us when we started, for sure, not that we still don't find ourselves there. If I don't know I'm running in the ego, I'm not going to ask for help. And the course is constantly trying to help us get in the understanding of what we are doing so that when we find ourselves in a place of less than peace, we know what to do now instead of what we did before. In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over God himself. So again, we really believe we are more powerful than God. God sits there and goes, okay, kids, have at it, play all you want, but it's not true, but okay. And there's a part of us that would like God to defend himself and one up us. But he can't or won't because he knows what truth is. There's no fight. When you know when you really know truth, there's no need for fight or defense because what's true is true. And that's God's position. And we're over here back and forth, trying to let him know what we know. All right. And in its terrible autonomy, it sees, again in quotes, the will of God has been destroyed. So we really 100% believe we've killed off the will of God. And that's why we think we are the home of evil, sin, and darkness. And if you knew who I was, you'd recoil as though I was a snake, because I believe I've killed off God to exist in duality. And that wouldn't have been a very nice thing to do. But God says, wait, hold it. Nothing happened. And every week he says, nothing happened. And we keep insisting that all this is more valuable, more important, and than he is. And as long as we continue to do that, we will reap the effects of that experience. And again, this is not a race. We are given as much time as we need to figure this out to make better choices. But we will reap the effects of the choice that we make. It dreams of punishment and troubles, it dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams, its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. Well, isn't that just a delightful line? All right, so it dreams of punishment because when I'm over here, I demand some form of punishment so that I can play the part of an innocent victim. Now, that's really sick to begin with, okay? But that's the setup. I have to have a problem so that I can play the part of an innocent victim of the whole while where Jesus is over here saying, but nothing happened, kids. But we continue to play this insane game that just keeps being perpetuated. All right, it trembles at the figures in the dream. So the innocent victim is trembling at the other characters that are playing in the dream. And gosh knows, as humans on planet Earth, there's lots of places where that we have reason to tremble and be in absolute terror. You know, whether it's in our personal life or we turn on the TV, horrible place to have chosen to live. And he says, but it's not real. It's okay, kids. And we go, oh no, I think you have this wrong. I better go back and do some checking. I can't believe that's what you really mean. He said, oh yeah, that's really what I mean. It's you that hasn't decided that it's something different. All right, so it's dreaming of punishment. It believes that the figures in the dream are going to come and get it, and there is enemies and who seek to murder it. So we murder the characters in the dream before, and excuse me, they're coming to murder us, and then we want to attack them before they murder us. And that's the whole setup of the ego. And, you know, again, if you were teaching the course from the place of, oh, let's talk about love, you wouldn't be reading these sections in the course. I'm sorry, it's getting freezing. If somebody wants to, we're going to end it, and I'm just going to do a couple more lines. And you wouldn't be reading these courses or these lines and digging them up and filtering through them. Because who would? This is kind of horrible stuff. And yet, if we don't really examine these particular quotes and understand what the underlying purpose and value and need of the ego is, we'll just gloss over these and go, love, 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 love. But we'll be sitting over here saying love. We won't be understanding what real love is. All right. So again, this idea who seeks to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. So the perpetrators or the enemies or the dream of punishment will always appear to be coming from something or someone outside of me. And I think I need to either attack or defend myself in order to be okay in the world. And the Course is saying that's never going to work. Because the problem doesn't lie in the projection. It lies in the projector that has a piece of film that says, I've chosen against who I really am. And as long as we're playing here, we've closed the door to here. All right, we're just going to read the first line of paragraph 3. The Son of God, we're going to end with a positive note. All right. The Son of God is egoless. What can he know of madness and death of God when he abides in him? After all that puke, he's going to give us one good line. But that's exactly where the course takes us, is after you sift through, understand, and process through what the ego is all about, then you align to what is true, and you have the effects of that in your experience. But not as Marianne. Marianne's not the doer. Marianne is the one that gets it out of the way, and then it can be done through Marianne. And those around me will be affected by it, not because of Marianne being in control of what the other person thinks, what Marianne thinks the other person needs to get from her. It's because Marianne's not there, and she's just using this as a vehicle through which love can flow. Totally different than what we're normally doing. All right, real quick, does anybody have any comments or questions about all that wonderful stuff we read? Okay, so I think it is like 1:45, so I think we'll close, and we will say our little prayer, and I hope to see you again next time. Okay, so everybody take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Our holiness is yours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given, and accept but this into the minds that you've created and which you love. Amen. Okay, go forth among the people and remember what it's saying here. Look at the blocks that keep you from that love.